Sorry about that, guys. Is the setup back up? I hope no one's hurt. Can you also move this vase and this coffee cup away, please? I'm kind of clumsy, but you already know that. So, we're here to talk about my life, huh? It's quite a roller coaster, let me tell ya. Anyway, I'm Maisie, and before I continue, please like and subscribe to MSA. My story starts in a small apartment in Washington, D.C., where I lived with my dad, who worked as a computer expert with the government. Dad and I were close, mostly because we both loved computers and would spend hours chatting about codes, algorithms, applications. Well, let me tell you something interesting. There are over 700 computer languages, and the first bug found in a computer was an actual bug. Okay, that's not interesting. I can see you're yawning. That's because you took my coffee away. I would have broken that cup. I was 6 when I accidentally broke the toilet because my butt was too fat to fit inside. And then at 10, I went to a wedding, tripped on my own foot, and crashed into the wedding cake. You should have seen the bride. Some crying mess she was. So, you're clumsy and annoying? Do you want the story or not? Yes, please continue. So, yeah, my dad and I were close and things were going perfectly. I was acing my classes. By 13, I could crack the toughest codes. And by 16, I'd already developed an application where you could paint your own cat blank. Dad sprung into action, but it was too late. And then minutes later, out of nowhere, the FBI crashed open the lab and handcuffed Dad.
You're under arrest for leaking important government files. You have the right to remain silent, and whatever you say will be used against you in the court of law.
No way, my dad is innocent. Tell them, Dad.
Maisie, I'm sorry. Take care of yourself, and I promise you everything will be fine.
The FBI dragged Dad away, and a week later his case went to trial. I used all our savings to hire the best lawyer for Dad, but it was useless. The evidence against him was stacking, and he was sentenced to 20 years in jail. Do you want a tissue? Yes, thank you. Oh, sorry. I just get really overwhelmed. It was a tough time. Anyway, the day Dad went to jail, I couldn't sleep a wink. And the next morning, news of his arrest spread like wildfire. My friends turned their back on me, and everywhere I went, people whispered all kinds of things about Dad that made my blood boil. I was losing my mind. So that week, when I met Dad, I told him everything, and he suggested I move in with his sister Gina to New York. But I'd only met Aunt Gina once when I was 6, and it wasn't a pleasant experience, mostly because our daughter Claire was such a prude. I was nervous, but somehow made up my mind and hopped on a plane. I reached Aunt Gina's mansion and saw her waiting for me with Claire. I walked up and hugged Claire tight, but she pushed me away. Oh my God. Have you heard of personal space? 2 steps back, please. I'm sorry. That's just the way I say hello. Maisie, that's a funny noise. No, my name's Maisie. We met when we were really young, and you told me I have the nose of a seahorse. And then I asked you if you wanted to play with the computer, and you told me that was geeky and you'd rather eat a bag of worms than stay with me because I smelled like a farm. Ring a bell? But Claire just gave me a weird look and left without answering. The next morning was no good either. Aunt Gina and Claire were sinfully boring people, and they hardly spoke, so I decided to start a conversation. Such beautiful weather. I can already smell the winter in the air. Perfect time for some hot chocolate and sandwiches, right? It's the weather to curl up and die. The leaves have ruined the garden, and I feel like throwing up at the thought of wearing 10 layers so I wouldn't freeze to death. Oh, God.